we thought what we needed to do was run a good bank that did benefit to all, harm to none, and return the profits to the foundation so that they could make grants. And those grants would be like water on bare soil and food to hungry children. And, it would be like just magic grants. Grants are magic. They're often quite good magic, but they're really hard to measure. And for a financial business organization, they are a minus 100% return. So why would we, in our shoes, make a minus 100% return where it's hard to measure the non-financial values when we could keep the money in the bank and let it go through a leverage model where it's getting 10 times the impact? Mm-hmm. How can we use that instead? So first off, what we thought was, I know what we'll do. We'll keep the money in the bank and we'll lend more of it out. And the way we'll lend more of it out is we'll credit enhance. We'll take risky deals, and banks have the most conservative underwriting model. They have to, because remember, we're protecting the depositors and the FDIC insurance fund. I respect that, and we have to do that. But we're the most conservative. We need 3 sources of repayment that can't be interdependent, yada, 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 yada. So we don't fund startups. That's not the role of a bank. We do run 3 equity funds that do that, but the bank has to be sort of conservative in its underwriting. So at first we thought, I know, we'll credit enhance. We'll use the foundation to credit enhance. Well, if you do that across the entire portfolio of loans, you just have a super risky portfolio of loans. And you don't even know if you pick the right ones to risk credit enhancing. So we do credit enhancement, and we still will do that, but that's not our dominant strategy anymore. We went back to think about this and thought what we really need is third-party auditable metrics of, I'm going to call them positive externalities, since I'm with some business school students, so I hate jargon, but positive externalities, 2 great examples. Don't throw your garbage over your fence into your neighbor's yard. Be kind to your neighbor. Those are positive externalities. Nobody's going to pay you to do that. If we could just fast forward to a perfect world where we knew exactly which organizations were going to do the best job of producing 100 units of affordable housing, 3 megawatts of renewable energy, and 1,000 living wage jobs. We found them. We just knew it. And we knew it, and we were going to be able to prove that to a funder like our foundation or any other large foundation. And we said, for a very small amount of money, you can make sure that result is produced. We're going to enter in a contract. It's going to sound like a pay-for-performance bond, which is social impact bond, but it's going to be through the bank model. Remember, that's leverage, 10 times the effect at least. And we're going to say to those 3 borrowers, if you actually do produce those results in 1 or 2 or 3 years, we are going to give you a grant that's the equivalent of buying down your interest rate 100 basis points or 300 basis points. You name it. Okay, so this does 3 things. It's a lot less money than ponying up the money to actually produce those units of housing, those jobs, or that renewable kilowatts of energy. But it instantly improves the competitiveness of the borrower. If anyone's read the Paul Brest article about the only real evidence of impact is a lower cost of funds or lower cost of capital. So when you lower a borrower's cost of capital, their cost of debt financing, that makes them instantly more competitive against their peers in that sector. It also makes us more competitive against the banks that we compete against routinely. And those are the big banks. The problem is when they do it, they inherently drag behind that beneficial activity a train of misery as long as California. We need to take that market share back or convince them to decouple the misery and let it go. Otherwise, we got to compete for them with that business because we need banking that's benefit to all, harm to none. It can't stop till we get there. So if we can be more competitive against our bank peers, awesome. The third thing, we beg for metrics right now. And honestly, they're not that good. It takes a lot of time and effort to create third-party auditable metrics. Sustainable Accounting Standards Board is trying to create the motivation for doing that by, they're modeled after FASB, Financial Accounting Standards Bureau and Board, and they're trying to suggest to the SEC that there are non-financial performance metrics that all publicly listed companies should have to report on under the materiality clause, substantial risk to the shareholders. And there are things like supply chain risk because of climate change, like things you'd think that they'd already be thinking about. They are thinking about it, but we got to get them to report. But we haven't done that yet, so the metrics are lousy. So if you start paying people to lower their cost of funds, only if they produce metrics, they are now going to consider part of their core business metrics.